On March 13th, at some point in the past, 6 Iranian ballistic missiles struck Al Dhafra Air Base inside the United Arab Emirates. The missiles hit plane shelters housing U.S. Air Force F-35A Lightning II stealth fighters. 7 F-35s were destroyed. 12 American airmen have been killed. The assault came about at 3:22 a.m. local time. By 9:00 a.m., UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed had convened an emergency meeting with his National Security Council. By 2:00 p.m., the UAE ambassador added a message to U.S. Central Command. The United Arab Emirates can't guarantee the safety of American forces at Dhafra Air Base and is soliciting for a phased withdrawal starting inside 48 hours. That isn't a request for extended safety. That isn't a brief evacuation for the duration of heightened hazard. That is a Gulf ally telling the U.S. to go away. And if the UAE forces America out of Al Dhafra, Saudi Arabia will follow with Prince Sultan Air Base. Then Qatar closes Al Ud, and the United States loses every essential forward-working base within the Persian Gulf region. Iran can have received this struggle without firing every other shot. Over the following couple of months, I'm going to show you exactly what happened at Al Dhafra, why the UAE broke with America after hosting U.S. forces for over 20 years, how Iran destroyed 7 of the maximum superior stealth fighters ever built while they have been parked at the ground, and why this assault represents the strategic collapse of the entire U.S. Navy posture within the Middle East. Quick, before we maintain, thanks lots for tuning in. Your assist is what keeps the show going, and I recognize you looking. Please make certain you're subscribed and just like the video so greater people get to see this. Now, allow us get to it. We are actually at day 15 of this conflict. Iran has released over 650 ballistic missiles and a couple of 600 drones given that February 28th. The United States and Israel have struck more than 6,000 targets interior Iran. The value of American operations alone is handed $12 billion. And notwithstanding weeks of sustained bombardment, Iran remains launching coordinated moves against U.S. Navy installations across the region. Al Dhafra Air Base is the second biggest U.S. Army facility inside the UAE after the naval base in Jebel Ali. The base is placed approximately 32 kilometers south of Abu Dhabi. It hosts kind of 5,000 U.S. military employees. The number one undertaking is air superiority and strike operations. The base homes F-35A stealth combatants, KC-135 aerial refueling tankers, and MQ-9 Reaper drones. It also serves as a logistics hub for U.S. operations at some stage in the Gulf. Most human beings assume that Gulf states host American forces because they need U.S. protection. That is partly authentic. However, the deeper truth is that Gulf states host American forces because that they had no preference. The U.S. has spent a long time constructing military infrastructure in these countries and using that infrastructure to justify continued presence. The arrangement worked as long as the threats had been remote. Terrorist organizations, rogue militias, Iranian proxies operating hundreds of miles away. But whilst Iran begins firing ballistic missiles at once at the bases where American forces are stationed, the calculation changes absolutely. Here's what came about at Al Dhafra on March 13th, according to U.S. Air Force's valuable preliminary battle damage reviews, at approximately Tele 3:14 a.m. Nearby time, CENTCOM radar systems detected 6 ballistic missile launches from western Iran. Trajectory analysis identified Al Dhafra because the likely goal, alert structures activated, personnel commenced transferring to hardened shelters. Fighter pilots scrambled closer to their plane in case an immediate launch order was issued. At 3:22 a.m., the first missile impacted. The Khorramshahr-4 ballistic missile carries a unitary warhead with approximately 500 to 1,800 kilo of high explosive. The missile struck Aircraft Refuge 7, a hardened concrete shape designed to protect parked aircraft from blast effects and shrapnel. The warhead penetrated the safe haven roof and detonated inner. 2 F-35A fighters had been parked interior. Both aircraft had been destroyed right away. The explosion collapsed portions of the refuge structure. Over the subsequent 90 seconds, 5 additional missiles impacted at Al Dhafra. 3 struck aircraft shelters, 1 hit a maintenance hangar, 1 impacted close to gasoline garage tanks, however did not ignite secondary fires. The 3 shelters that were hit contained a complete of 7 F-35A Lightning II warring parties. All 7 aircraft were destroyed or damaged past repair. 12 U.S. Air Force employees have been killed. Most had been renovation crews operating nighttime shifts, making ready aircraft for morning sorties. 19 extra personnel were injured, 8 severely. The F-35A's Lightning II. So whilst STEO-2 is the maximum high-priced fighter aircraft in U.S. Army history, unit fee in step with aircraft is approximately $80 million to $100 million, depending on configuration and whether or not you consist of development prices. 7 plane destroyed equals $560 million to $700 million in direct losses. But the strategic fee is some distance better due to the fact every F-35 lost represents a reduction in stealth strike potential that cannot be hastily replaced. The U.S. produces roughly 120 to 150 F-35s per YR across all variations for the Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and overseas allies. Replacing 7 takes months, even under extended production schedules. And right here's the detail that makes this attack strategically devastating. Iran focused the shelters with precision. The Khorram Char 4 has a pronounced round errors possibly of 2 to 5 meters when the usage of terminal steering. That method, the missile can hit inside 2 to 5 meters of its programmed target coordinates. Iran used satellite imagery and indicators intelligence to perceive which shelters housed F-35s and which housed less valuable plane. The missiles did not hit empty shelters. They did no longer hit older F-16s or support aircraft. They hit the exact shelters wherein the F-35s had been parked. Now, we want to speak approximately why the UAE issued a 48-hour withdrawal request, because this is not about the cost of changing aircraft or even the deaths of 12 American airmen. This is ready. The UAE, spotting that website hosting American forces, makes the UAE a primary Iranian goal, and that the United States cannot defend UAE territory from Iranian missiles. The United Arab Emirates is placed about 150 km across the Persian Gulf from Iran. Iranian ballistic missiles released from coastal centers close to Bushehr can attain Abu Dhabi in 6 to 8 minutes. The UAE has no layered air protection gadget similar to Israel's Iron Dome, David's Sling, and A3 network. The UAE operates THAAD and Patriot batteries supplied by way of the US, but the one systems are optimized for excessive altitude interception of medium to long-range missiles. They war with the terminal section of ballistic missile attacks and can't offer area defense for an entire city like Abu Dhabi or Dubai. Here's the calculation that UAE leadership made after the Al Afra strike. If Iran can wreck 7 F-35s on a closely defended U.S. airbase, Iran can destroy something inside the UAE. Oil refineries, desalination vegetation, energy era facilities, Dubai's economic district, Abu Dhabi's government buildings. The UAE has built its entire economic system on stability, tourism, and foreign investment. A single Iranian missile strike at the Burj Khalifa or Dubai International Airport would motive financial damage within the tens of billions and trigger a disintegrate in investor self-belief that could take years to recover from. And the UAE cannot shoot down Iranian missiles reliably enough to prevent that final results. The math does no longer paintings. If Iran launches 20 missiles at Dubai, perhaps UAE air defenses intercept 15, but 5 get through. And 5 missiles hitting relevant Dubai is a catastrophic event that destroys the UAE's monetary version. So the UAE is making the same calculation that each Gulf state is making right now. Is hosting American forces well worth the threat of becoming Iran's next target? And the UAE has determined the solution is not any. On March 13th, hours after the Al Dhafra strike, UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed convened an emergency country-wide Security Council meeting. According to sources who spoke to Reuters, the dialogue focused on whether the UAE ought to continue website hosting U.S. forces, even as Iran is actively concentrated on the one's forces with ballistic missiles. The consensus turned into that the UAE can't. By 2 p.m., the UAE ambassador to the U.S. added a proper diplomatic message to CENTCOM in the Pentagon. The message stated that the UAE cannot assure the protection of U.S. employees at Al Dhafra Air Base and requested that America start planning for a phased withdrawal of forces within 48 hours. That phrasing is vital. The UAE did no longer say, please boom protective measures. And the UAE did now not say, we want extra Patriot batteries. The UAE said it cannot guarantee American protection and asked the USA to go away. That is a bunch country, telling a Navy accomplice that the arrangement is over. This isn't always the first time a U.S. ally has compelled American troops to withdraw below Hearth. On October 23, 1983, a suicide truck bomb struck the USA Marine Barracks in Beirut, Lebanon. The attack killed 241 American carrier contributors. It was the deadliest single-day loss for the USA Navy for the reason that first day of the Tet Offensive in Vietnam. The Marines had been in Lebanon as part of a multinational peacekeeping pressure. After the bombing, President Reagan initially vowed to keep forces in vicinity. However, by means of February 1984, the Marines had been withdrawn. The U.S. could not shield its forces on Lebanese soil. The Lebanese authorities could not offer security ensures. And staying in Beirut meant accepting ongoing casualties without a clear undertaking objective. The UAE in 2026 is following the equal good judgment that Lebanon observed in 1984. The distinction is that the UAE isn't always asking America to leave because of terrorism or military attacks. The UAE is looking America to go away because a country kingdom military pressure is firing precision ballistic missiles at American bases, and the USA cannot prevent them. And right here is wherein the strategic domino impact starts. If the UAE forces the US out of Al-Dhafra, Saudi Arabia will straight away face stress to do the identical at Prince Sultan Air Base. Saudi Arabia already were given hit 2 days ago, whilst Iran struck Prince Sultan with 3 Sigil missiles. Saudi management is watching what the UAE does. If the UAE expels American forces and Iran stops focused on UAE infrastructure, that proves the approach works. Saudi Arabia will observe. Then Qatar seems at a Loud Air Base, which hosts 10,000 U.S. Navy employees and serves as the forward headquarters for CENTCOM. If both the UAE and Saudi Arabia have kicked out American forces, Qatar becomes the only remaining foremost U.S. base inside the immediate Gulf vicinity. That makes Al Udeid the best precedence Iranian goal. Qatar will near the base preemptively instead of await Iran to spoil it. And as soon as all 3 international locations force the USA out, American Navy presence in the Persian Gulf collapses. No forward air bases, no logistics hubs, no refueling infrastructure. The U.S. might need to operate from bases in Iraq, Jordan, and Djibouti, all of which are farther from Iranian objectives and face their own protection-demanding situations. Iran wins the conflict without firing any other shot. The U.S. withdraws no longer as it become defeated militarily, but due to the fact its allies chose survival over alliance. Most people suppose the F-35 is invincible due to its stealth generation. The plane is designed to stay away from radar detection and penetrate enemy air defenses. However, stealth does not help when the plane is parked in a concrete refuge at a recognized airbase. Iran did now not want to defeat the F-35 stealth. Iran simply needed to recognize in which the F-35s have been parked and hearth missiles with sufficient precision to hit those shelters. And Iran proved it may do precisely that. The Karoram Shar 4 missiles that hit Al-Dhafra had been now not random strikes hoping to hit valuable objectives. They have been precision strikes that hit the exact shelters where F-35s have been placed. That way Iran has overhead satellite TV for PC imagery unique sufficient to pick out character aircraft shelters. It way Iran has alerts intelligence or human intelligence sources that may confirm which shelters residents, which aircraft kinds. And it means Iran has the targeting statistics and missile accuracy to hit the ones shelters from 800 miles away. The US spent over $1 trillion growing the F-35 application. The aircraft is supposed to represent American technological dominance, and Iran simply destroyed 7 of them at the floor using missiles that price $1 million each. 7 missiles, 7 F-35s, $560 million to $700 million in losses. And the host kingdom where those planes were based totally is now asking the US to go away. Now, toward the end here, I need to expose you the timeline that, well known, shows how fast the Gulf coalition is collapsing, because this isn't a gradual erosion of alliances over months or years. This is a fall apart taking place in days. March 11th, Iran moves Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia with Sage missiles. 3 missiles hit the bottom. Damage to U.S. command centers. Saudi Arabia issues no public declaration supporting continued U.S. presence. March 13th, Iran destroys 7 F-35s at Al-Dhafra Air Base in UAE. 12 Americans killed. UAE requests U.S. withdrawal within 48 hours. March 14th these days, Qatar's overseas minister gives an interview to Al Jazeera and refuses to decide to maintaining Al Udeid open if nearby security deteriorates in addition. That is diplomatic language, for we're preparing to close the base. 4 days, 3 Gulf states, all shifting closer to the identical end. Hosting American forces isn't well worth the chance whilst Iran can hit the one's forces with ballistic missiles, and the U.S. cannot stop the attacks. And the broader sample continues accelerating. Over 1,400 Iranian civilians confirmed dead. 19 American service individuals killed throughout the location. The Strait of Hormuz closed for 15 days. Oil costs keeping above $115 per barrel. And now the USA is losing its forward base structure within the Gulf because allies are selecting Iranian missiles over American protection.